This is the horn clinic for Etude number 22 from the Max Pottag's book, Preparatory Melodies for Solo Work. This exercise, like it says, is in a march style. I would not take this overly fast like an American march, like 120, but I think this is better in a more relaxed tempo of 108. You have to play this with an articulate march style. One of the things that you can do to help is to make sure you have a good tongue position that will allow you to do this. I recommend that you use the tip of the tongue, but instead of having the tip very pointed, make sure that you can feel the tip of the tongue more on the front portion of the tongue instead of the tip. But follow the dental arc here with your tongue, so you're having more contact point. This is what the Viennese do, and it works out very, very well for them. So it gives you a more block-like tongue execution. It's almost as if you have a seed or a piece of lint on the end of your tongue and you want to get rid of it. It's more like a spitting motion. But be careful. This doesn't mean that your tongue goes between your teeth. Not at all. Your tongue should stay right on the back side of your tongue, near the bottom of your teeth. So now that we have our articulation point made with our tongue, we need also to make sure that we keep our air steady. Our air works as if it's constantly slurring. Then, if we put the tongue in with it and using that same directional, intense air, this gives you a nice march-like execution and good block-like tongue that will sound great in the audition room or the concert hall. One thing that you can do to really help practice just this much is another trick that some of the European players do is go through this entire exercise but half valve it on the F side. And it sounds crazy, but it really does work. So you're going to get this type of sound. The benefits will be immediately apparent when you go back. So all you do, we have our tempo, and I'm going to take the subdivision off for right now. So just we have a block tempo. So what I want you to do is go through this exercise with your metronome and go ahead and try to approximate the pitch. It doesn't have to be accurate at all. It's just making sure that you keep a steady air stream and that the tongue is working through a never-ending supply of air, such as this. I know, it's a little bit crazy, but listen what happens now when I go back and play this normal, but with that same approach that I just did. Now, we have a couple of other problems with this. One is acoustical. Lower notes take more energy to sound as loud. What I hear too often in younger players when they play these triplets in the opening, the middle note is almost ghosted. It's more not there than there. It loses its identity. So what you have to do for good execution is to make sure that that middle lower note has the same presence and clarity. So you'll have to use maybe a little bit more energy. Now if you slur this, you can practice using the air that way. To your ear, make sure that all those notes have the same presence. Then when you can do that slurred, just add the tongue. It's a nice little trick. Also, another acoustical problem is shorter notes often will sound softer than longer notes. So we have to compensate for that as well. When we get to the dotted 8/16, we want to make sure first that we're playing true dotted 8/16. So these are eighth notes. To place the 16th note correctly, it's halfway in between an eighth note. One, da-dee, da-dee, da-da, da-da, da-da. One, and da-da, and da-da, da-da, da-da. So, like that. Now, we're going to increase the energy on the 16th, so the 16th note has just as much presence. Now, with this type of execution here, we have a crescendo with it. So we have to make the crescendo happen through the long note. Don't let it happen with just the short note. So let the long notes grow. So that you arrive at the forte up at the top. Then we have succeeding G's, octaves lower. So the middle G has got to have more air, and then the bottom note, quite a bit more air to sound as loud. I'm using a good twice as much air on that bottom note as I do for the top note. I've already discussed rhythm on the dotted 8/16, so we get square execution there. Another rhythmical problem is making sure that your triplets are indeed even. Think of a word that has 3 syllables that are placed evenly, something like Mexico. So if we take our metronome here and go 1, Mexico 1, Mexico 1, and then finger it when you do that. 1, Mexico 1, Mexico 1, Mexico 1, and then slur it. Then finally tongue. What I hear too often is the first note gets isolated from the last remaining 2, so it sounds like somebody was saying blueberry. Dee bum ba ba bee bum ba ba ba. So beep ba ba bum ba 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 bum ba 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 ba. Absolutely even. If you look at the last line, we have some fast tonguing here on the second measure. We have 2/16, and just think of saying the word D, 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 D. Now, when you have the triplet, it might be a little bit too fast for some of you to use a single time, D, 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 without dragging. If you use triple time, where you have the tip touches and then the back of the tongue, either a K or a G, tagadada or a takata, 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 or sometimes people prefer to use two T's at the beginning of it. Tatakata, tatakata, tagadati, tatakata. Either will work. Here's with the K in the middle. Here's with the two T's initially with a K at the end. Yeah, it's a little bit muffly for me to do it that way. So I feel that it's cleaner for me personally using the K in the middle. So here is this etude number 22 played for you in its entirety.